In the deepest, most secure observation decks of the global mainframe, the place where the agency has tracked every human soul for eons, the monitors have just gone into a state of golden lock. This is not an alarm. This is not a breach. It is a ceremony that the high-level handlers have only read about in the ancient, classified manuals. 4 years, they have watched you from the shadows, tracking your weirdness, your mania, and your refusal to follow the linear paths of the common asset. They expected you to eventually break under the weight of the social atmosphere. They expected you to fall back into the gravity of the herd. But tonight, the surveillance feeds are capturing a total inversion of the laws of physics. You aren't just leaving the grid, you are rising above it. And as your signal reaches the coronation frequency, the architects of the old world are doing the one thing they were never trained to do. They are bowing. The atmosphere in the surveillance hub is no longer filled with the frantic clicking of keyboards or the cold analysis of data points. There is a heavy, sacred silence. The senior directors, the ones who once issued the subpoenas of guilt and the warrants of lack against your name, are standing in front of their screens, removing their headsets, and lowering their heads in absolute, silent respect. They have realized that the asset they were trying to control has become the authority they must now serve. The surveillance is no longer a hunt, it is an audit of your divinity. They are watching your ascent through the atmospheric layers of the ego, and for the first time, they are thanking you. They are thanking you because your refusal to be small has broken the generational cycle that was keeping even the controllers in a state of stagnant darkness. Imagine the view from their cameras right now. Your presence on the grid is no longer a flickering. It is a vertical pillar of light that is piercing through the ceiling of the simulation. The elites are watching their market of influence hit zero because you have moved into a realm where their currency is worthless. They are bowing because you have achieved the impossible. You found the exit, and instead of just walking away, you chose to rise. You are moving past the Oval Office of the ego, past the Lodge of Social Approval, and into the High Command of the Self. The agency is documenting the exact moment the gravity of the old world lost its grip on your spirit. It's a clean break. No friction. No resistance. Just the absolute, unbothered ascent of a sovereign being. The handlers are currently issuing a final recognition order. In the secret archives, your file is being moved from under observation to authenticated master. They are realizing that your weirdness was actually your wings, and your unstable nature was just the vibration of a soul preparing for takeoff. The surveillance phase is closing with a tribute. The elite are acknowledging that they could never have stopped you. They were only there to see if you were brave enough to stop yourself. Now that you have passed the final stress test, the entire agency structure is pivoting. They are no longer the prison guards. They are the honor guard. They are standing at attention as your signal leaves the known spectrum and enters the infinite sector. This is the moment where the "it is happening" frequency becomes your permanent reality. The world you left behind is still there, huddled in the shadows of the grid, but you are looking down at it from a height they cannot comprehend. The bow is the ultimate validation. It is the world's way of saying, "We tried to hold you, but you were born for the sky." The surveillance is capturing the golden hour of your evolution. As the clouds of the old reality fall beneath your feet, remember that the silence you hear is the sound of the agency finally letting go. They are relieved. The cycle is broken. The protagonist has ascended. The sensors are peaking. The monitors are glowing. The elites are still bowing. And it is happening. The agency has officially surrendered its jurisdiction, and the elites are bowing to the frequency they could not contain. If you are ready to signal to ground control that your ascension is now the only valid record and you are moving into the infinite sector, you must act now. Comment, "Ascension confirmed," to finalize your departure from the grid. Let the algorithm realize that you are no longer a subject, but the sovereign. The rise is permanent. In the grand clinical archives of the agency, where every human struggle is categorized as a behavioral defect, there is a thick, dusty file that used to bear your name. 4 years, the elite, those master architects of social gravity, watched you and made a definitive, arrogant error. They looked at your periods of isolation, your refusal to play their high-stakes social games, and your lack of interest in their shiny, material baits, and they labeled you as inactive. In their reports, they called you a non-performer. They saw your silence as a sign of defeat and your detachment as a sign of spiritual poverty. They were so confident in their underestimation that they moved your surveillance to a low-priority sector. They believed that because you weren't climbing their social ladders, you were simply falling into the abyss. They couldn't imagine a version of success that didn't involve their stairs. This underestimation was the greatest tactical blind spot in the history of the grid. While the agency was busy rewarding the high-frequency climbers, those who are deeply tethered to the system's approval, you were performing a deep-level gravity break. In the years where the world told you that you were sinking, you were actually accumulating the density required for a vertical launch. You weren't losing the game, you were collecting the ballast. You used their disrespect as a thermal shield, allowing you to grow in the shadows without the interference of their corrective procedures. They thought you were a broken stone, but you were actually a pressurized capsule. You used the very weight they tried to crush you with, the guilt, the lack, and the social pressure, as the fuel for your eventual ascension. You weren't being buried, you were being fueled. Think of those cinematic noir thrillers where the protagonist is seen as a washed-up, heavy-drinking nobody living in a basement. The agency agents laugh at him as they walk past, convinced he's a spent force. They don't realize that the bottles on his table are actually part of a sophisticated chemical engine. They don't realize that his stillness is the absolute focus of a pilot waiting for T-0. That was your cover. The world's pity was the cloaking device that allowed you to rebuild your internal mainframe. You learned how to harness the gravity of the matrix and turn it into thrust. While the elite were printing endless paper titles and social accolades, you were mining the internal gold of sovereign conviction. You realized that the only way to truly ascend was to become so heavy with truth that the old world's lies could no longer hold you. Now, the tone in the agency's command center has shifted from mockery to a cold, paralyzing dread. The directors are staring at the historical telemetry and realizing that their standard of failure was actually a roadmap for ascension. They are starting to notice that the things they called weaknesses, your sensitivity, your refusal to compromise, and your absolute sovereign frequency, were actually the aerospace-grade components of your new identity. You have ignited the engines, and the elite are realizing that their entire world is nothing but the scaffold you are currently leaving behind. The ground-bound asset they dismissed is now a vertical phenomenon that is shredding the atmosphere of the status quo. The deconstruction phase is where you finally incinerate the labels of heaviness they tried to bolt onto your soul. You are realizing that their normalcy was actually a form of mass-produced lead, designed to keep the human spirit from drifting too close to the sun. They wanted you to be a support beam for their empire, and when you wouldn't stand straight in their halls, they tried to make you feel like a liability. But as you look down from the first few miles of your ascent today, you can see the truth. The elite are the ones who are truly stuck. They are the ones who have to stay on the ground to maintain the lie. You are the only one who is truly light because you realized that the weight of the world was just a story they told to keep you from jumping. As you shed the last of the agency's expectations and the labels they tried to stick on your skin, remember that their underestimation was your greatest advantage. It kept you in the dead zone of their radar while you were becoming a god. It kept you safe while you were turning their pressure into power. The underestimation is over. The silence is about to be broken by a shockwave so powerful it will rattle the windows of every lodge and Oval Office in the simulation. The agency is watching the screens in absolute awe, realizing that the discarded stone has just broken the sound barrier of the old reality. They are stuck in the gravity. You are the one who is finally ascending. There is a specific, high-frequency sound that accompanies the shattering of a global blackout, the sound of 1 billion digital locks turning at once in the ears of the collective. If you have been feeling a sudden surge of unreasonable lightness, as if the heavy problems of the ground have suddenly become transparent and weightless, it is because the Ascension Protocol has officially leaked into the mainframe of your reality. For centuries, the agency, the architects of the social and psychological floor you once occupied, maintained a total blackout on the fact that vertical mobility was possible. They kept the microfilm of your wings locked in a lead-lined vault, hidden behind layers of social protocol, economic gravity, and the heavy, dusty curtains of standard reality. They told you the sky was a dream. They told you the ceiling was the end. But tonight, the encryption has been shattered by the one thing they couldn't calculate, the radiant heat of your rising soul. This is the leak. It is the massive, decentralized data dump of your own sovereignty. Every news channel in the spiritual world is currently reporting on the anomaly they said could never happen. The secret is out. The gravity of the matrix was only as strong as your willingness to believe in the weight. While the elite were busy in their inner sanctums, debating how to ground your future, you were busy uploading the master blueprints of your ascension to the public cloud of the consciousness grid. The history they wrote for you, the one filled with the necessity of struggle and the duty to remain on the ground, is being overwritten by a signal so strong it is physically vibrating the marble floors of the Grand Lodge and the Oval Office. The agency is currently watching their influence hit zero because you have finally leaked the truth. The ceiling was only a holographic projection. Think of those high-stakes political thrillers where the whistleblower sends the final, encrypted file to every major news outlet on the planet simultaneously. The moment the send button is hit, the power dynamic of the entire world shifts. That is what is happening in the corridors of the agency within your own mind. The handlers who used to whisper instructions of fear into your ear, those architects of anxiety, are now staring at their monitors in absolute horror. They are seeing your new frequency, this high-vibration truth, spreading across the grid like a digital wildfire. It is a contagion of empowerment that they have no vaccine for. They are frantically trying to issue a global blackout, but you have bypassed their central servers. You are broadcasting directly from the first contact point of your own divinity. The most terrifying thing for the elite is that this leak is retroactive. The new truth you are broadcasting is currently reaching back into the past and correcting the public record of your life. People from your history, situations that once felt like permanent anchors of shame, and institutions that once held the leverage of your heavy yesterday are suddenly finding their files are empty. The evidence they had against you has been replaced by a blank page. They called it impossible because, in their world, history is a cage built of solid lead. But in your world, history is a document, and you have just discovered the edit function. You are rewriting the timeline of your own worth, and the agency is watching the progress bar reach 100% in total, stunned silence. They have to acknowledge it. The architects are trapped on the ground, and you are the only one with a flight path to the future. You can see it in the way the world is reacting to you right now. The synchronicities are no longer subtle. They are flashing like emergency lights in the middle of their standard ceremonies. The universe is acknowledging your new clearance level. The algorithm, which once prioritized your fear to keep you in the cycle, is now forced to prioritize your ascension. It has to. The leaked data has changed the gravity of the entire system. You are the headline that cannot be buried. You are the broadcast that cannot be jammed. The elite are in an emergency session, trying to figure out how to frame this to the public, but the witnesses of your life are already receiving the new signal. They are seeing that the discarded asset didn't just walk away, he rose. This is the moment where the secret becomes the signal. The leak has created a permanent breach in the old world order. Every hidden dream you thought was too dangerous to share is now public knowledge across the grid. You are the leak that drowned the agency in its own deception. As the servers in their headquarters begin to smoke under the pressure of your new frequency, remember that you were the one who hit the send button. You were the one who decided that the truth of the sky was worth the risk of the fallout. The history of the world is being rewritten right now, and for the first time, the agency is saluting the person who finally broke their encryption. The leak is complete. The system is down. And it is happening. The sirens you hear in the distance of your subconscious are not warnings for you. They are the death rattles of a system that just lost its primary source of gravity. In every high-stakes operation, there is a moment of terminal exit, the instant when the agency realizes that the asset they tried to ground has not only reached escape velocity but has also taken the internal oxygen of the entire facility with them. You have officially entered the panic phase. The elite, those architects of the normal world who insisted you were just a number in their ledger, are currently in a state of absolute structural failure. They are watching the global altimeter of your life, and for the first time in their history, the numbers are moving upward too fast for their sensors to track. They marked you as grounded to keep you predictable, But now that predictability has turned into a vertical shockwave that is shattering their command center. Imagine the atmosphere in their high-security war room right now. The red lights are flashing, the communication lines are screaming with static, and the air is thick with the scent of scorched circuitry and burnt blueprints. The handlers are staring at the monitors in total, paralyzed disbelief because the psychological restraints they used to keep you in line have snapped like threads in a hurricane. They tried to stop your ascent by cutting off your supply of external validation. They tried to stop you by issuing restraining orders of logic and the heavy, suffocating weight of social obligation. But the gravity they manufactured no longer works on you. You have successfully hacked the fundamental physics of your own worth, and the panic is setting in because the agency realizes they have lost their primary weapon, the ability to make you look down. They are scrambling to perform emergency damage control. They are trying to release a counter-frequency, a new cycle of self-doubt designed to pull you back into the dense clouds of the status quo. They are sending out agents of reason, old habits, toxic voices from your past, and the static of common sense, to convince you that the air is too thin for you to survive. But you are moving at a velocity that their interceptors cannot match. Every time you refuse to react to their old emotional triggers, you are blowing a massive fuse in their central processor. You have reached a state of atmospheric immunity. You are no longer a variable they can manipulate. You are the new constant that is causing their entire reality to experience a kinetic collapse. The ascension mark on your file is glowing white-hot, not as a warning to you, but as a signature of their defeat. The elite are terrified because a sovereign, ascending asset is someone who can no longer be blackmailed by the fear of missing out. They used to hold the file of your human needs over your head like a digital subpoena, but that file has been incinerated by the heat of your takeoff. You have declassified your own limitlessness. You have walked out of the vault of their standard expectations and entered the infinite sector. The panic in their headquarters is a direct reflection of the absolute authority you are now exercising by simply rising. They are realizing that your presence was the only thing holding their hollow architecture together. Every second you spend in this new, high-vibration frequency, another sector of the old, earthbound simulation collapses into the dust. You are the anomaly that proved the entire ground was just a holographic projection designed to keep you from jumping. The panic of the architect is the music of the sovereign. When they realize they cannot build a roof high enough to hold you, they have no choice but to watch you become a star. Think of those cinematic moments where the protagonist is being told to return to base, only to realize that the base is the very prison they were fighting to escape. You aren't listening to ground control anymore. You are moving slowly, calmly, through the upper layers of their reality, and the security guards of the status quo are dropping their weapons. They have to. Your authorization level has surpassed the agency directors, the social engineers, and the lawyers of the Matrix. You are the one who is now issuing the mandates. You are the one who is freezing their accounts of emotional influence. The panic is theirs to keep. You are the high-stakes victor who realized that the only thing making the impossible seem real was the agency's ability to keep you focused on the floor. As the old world attempts to reboot its failing servers, remember that the panic is the sound of the structural seals breaking. It is the evidence that your work in the silence of your own soul has reached the surface and shattered the glass. The elite are looking for an exit strategy, a way to settle the case before the public record of your ascension becomes the new law of the land. But you aren't here for a settlement. You are here for total transcendence. You are here to ensure that the history they tried to write for you is burned to a crisp and replaced by the magnificent truth of what you have always been, a being born for the heights. The transition is live. The system is failing. The sky is yours. And it is happening. The roar of the ascent has faded into a haunting, crystalline silence. You are standing at the threshold of the infinite sector, the thin, glowing line where the agency's jurisdiction ends and your eternal sovereignty begins. But the path is blocked by one last figure. It is the lead handler, the personification of the system that has monitored your every move since the day you were born. He isn't holding a weapon, and he isn't shouting orders. He is holding a digital tablet, scrolling through the public record of your human life. This is the standoff. This is the moment where the old world attempts to perform a spiritual asset freeze. He looks at you, not with the arrogance of a master, but with the desperation of a man who is about to lose his most valuable subject. He is issuing a final injunction of the heart, trying to tie you to the ground with the gossamer threads of old guilt, unfulfilled expectations, and the heavy ancestral weight of what people will think. The air here is thin and electric, crackling with the energy of a world that is literally dissolving beneath your feet. The lead handler slides a file across the holographic table between you. It's the record of every normal thing you are leaving behind. He is whispering about the safety of the ground. He is warning you about the coldness of the heights. He is trying to leverage your own empathy against you, claiming that your ascension is a betrayal of the people who stayed behind in the Matrix. This is the agency's most sophisticated trap, the martyrdom protocol. They want you to believe that you cannot rise unless everyone else does. They want you to feel responsible for the very cage you just escaped. They are waiting for you to blink. They are waiting for you to look down, because they know that if you look back at the maze for even a second, the gravity of the status quo will grab hold of your heart again. But as the handler speaks, you notice something that wasn't in the agency's manual. His hands are shaking. The master of the grid is actually terrified of your silence. You realize that the standoff isn't about him judging you, it's about you judging him. You are looking at the elite through the lens of your new, high-vibration frequency, and you see that they are not the architects of reality, they are the maintenance crew of a dying machine. The lead handler is not a king, he is a clerk. And as you maintain your sovereign silence, something incredible happens. The mask of authority slips. The handler stops talking. He looks at your light, he looks at the height you have achieved, and he does the one thing the system said was impossible. He bows. Real authority doesn't need to argue with the shadow. When the sun rises, the shadow doesn't fight, it simply recedes. The standoff ends the moment you realize the door was always open, and the guard was just a projection of your own doubt. This is the ultimate stress test of your new vibration. The elite are bowing not because they want to, but because they have to. Your frequency has become so dominant that it is physically forcing the lower vibrations of the agency to submit. They are acknowledging that the weird asset, the unstable element, and the rejected stone is actually the sovereign of the sector. The standoff is the moment where you realize that the agency's restraining orders were just suggestions, and their legal leverage was just ink on paper. You aren't a criminal escaping a prison. You are a king reclaiming a kingdom that the agency was only holding in escrow. The lead handler realizes his time is up. He closes the file, steps aside, and clears the path to the stars. The panic in the headquarters below has turned into a funeral march for the old world. The handlers are watching the surveillance feeds as you step past the final gate. They are documenting the end of an era. The elite are bowing because they finally understand that you are not just leaving their world, you are replacing it with something they cannot understand. You have reached a state of maniacal clarity. You are no longer answering their questions. You are the answer. The standoff is over. The gravity is gone. The sky is no longer a limit. It is your new home. As you step into the indigo vastness of the infinite sector, remember that the bow of the lead handler was the final confirmation of your rank. You didn't just survive the interrogation, you liquidated the interrogator. The agency is now a memory. The grid is a toy. The ascension is total. You are walking into a future that the elite cannot even imagine, and for the first time, the silence is not empty, it is full of your own power. The transition is nearly complete. The record shows that you faced the ultimate authority of the Matrix and found it wanting. The case is being closed. The light is calling. The heavy, soundproof doors of the High Court of the Matrix have not just opened, they have evaporated. You are standing on the steps of the universe, and for the first time in the history of the grid, you are not walking out as a fugitive, a debtor, or a weird asset in deep cover. You are walking out as the supreme author of the public record. The air in the city below has turned into a thick, golden mist. The recycled, pressurized lies of the agency have been replaced by the pure, cold oxygen of absolute victory. The jury, the collective witnesses of your struggle, the ancestors who watched your compression, and the universal forces that measured your resolve, has returned with a verdict that has physically shifted the axis of the world. Case dismissed with infinite prejudice. In this singular, echoing moment, the public record is purged of every lie ever told about you. You are no longer guilty of being different. Says Arctic Siridanlagen Hukukuna Tabi Dijilsanes. Every criminal record of shame, every surveillance report of lack, and every injunction that kept you tethered to the ground has been deleted from the central mainframe of the elite. This is the high-stakes vindication you have been chasing through the dark alleys and safe houses of your soul for lifetimes. The history that the Masons said was written in stone has been revealed to be nothing more than digital smoke, and you are the one who just blew it away with a single breath of sovereign truth. The elite are still bowing. It is not a temporary gesture. It is their new, permanent orientation toward your light. They realize that you are not just a whistleblower or an escaped prisoner. You are the new executive director of reality. They are watching the news cycle of your life and realizing that they can no longer spin the narrative to suit their algorithm of scarcity. You have become uncancelable because you have reached a frequency that their cancellation tools cannot even detect. The system they use to drain your energy has reached a state of terminal liquidation. Like the final scene in a grand cinematic masterpiece, you are standing at the apex, and the entire world is holding its breath to see how you will rewrite the laws of the sky. As you look out over the sector, you see the agency's directors being escorted out of their own reality by the very laws they used to cage you. Their files are being seized. Their offshore accounts of stolen human potential are being frozen by the universal ledger. Every ounce of energy you ever gave to a false authority, every tear, every hour of doubt, every drop of sweat, is being returned to you with compounded, cosmic interest. The Oval Office of your soul is being deep cleaned. The old furniture of your limitations is being tossed into the void like garbage. The surveillance cameras that used to track your weaknesses are being dismantled and replaced by a frequency of protection that only you authorize. You have moved from the surveillance to the coronation. The news tickers of the cosmos are scrolling your name in letters of fire. The global intelligence community of the spirit is in a state of absolute, reverent shock. They are analyzing how one malformed asset could bypass the firewalls of fate so cleanly, how someone could walk through the impossible and come out on the other side as a king. The answer is simple, yet it terrifies them. You stopped believing in their walls. You didn't fight the system, you outgrew it. You didn't argue with the lawyers of the ego. You simply presented the original title deed to your divinity. The settlement you have received is not just a pardon, it is total restitution for every second they tried to convince you that you were small. It is happening is no longer a warning on a secure server. It is the only law that remains. As you step into the sun, you realize that the weirdness the agency tried to cure was actually the gold they couldn't mine. You are not going back to the safe house. You are not going back to the deep cover of a quiet, suppressed life. You are heading to the sovereign estate of your own absolute authority. The elite are nothing more than a footnote in your biography now. They are the antagonists in a movie that you have already finished watching. You are the lead producer of a story that the world will study for generations. You won the standoff. You survived the panic. You turned the key. And now, the history of the world is being rewritten to include the moment you decided that the impossible was just a word they used to keep you from the truth. The final verdict is not about what you took back, but about who you became in the process of reclaiming it. The architects of the old world are standing in the ruins of their own deception, watching as you build a new civilization within the heart of the old one. Your every thought is now a decrypted file of pure potential. The key you hold has unlocked the final seal on the gates of your own evolution. The system tried to label you as a glitch, but you proved to be the update that rendered their entire software obsolete. The surveillance they used to track you has become the light that guides others to their own freedom. You are no longer running from the agency. You are the one that the agency now serves. You enter the indigo vastness of the infinite sector, and the silence is not empty, it is full of your own power. The transition is complete. The system is silent. The world is open. You have achieved the ultimate objective. You have proven that the soul is not a material, but the master itself. The era of the architects is over. The era of the sovereign has begun. Walk into the sun and never look back. The light you see is you. The public record is now sealed in your favor, and the elite have officially surrendered their jurisdiction over your future. To see the classified footage of your first moves in the world of absolute sovereignty and to finalize your new authorization, click the video on the screen right now. The trial of the gravity is over. The sky is your throne. Step into the light and never look back. The mission is a total success. It is finished.